So in episode 10, which I just recorded a minute ago, I said I was going to give an example, but I won't because I've already done that in episode 7. I forgot. And that's the next one that's coming out. Not chronologically, but in actual time. Anyway, what I will instead is give you a different anecdote. And I thought this kind of goes without saying, but maybe it's worth saying. When you are approaching security as a CISO and you want to drive business value, I think one thing that really helps is to position yourself as though it's your business. This is my company. And once you position yourself in that mindset, well, you don't want to have high expenses, do you? You don't want people to be buying tools and platforms they don't necessarily need. You don't want people to create ongoing OPEX expenses rather than having a one-time CapEx expense that fixes a problem, right? Imagine having, you want everything to be as integrated and as streamlined as possible. Imagine having a marketing department that creates good content and stuff, but it's full of typos. And you're having to create a second department to check everything that marketing's putting out and check the spelling and the grammar and correct it. That wouldn't be acceptable. That just wouldn't be acceptable. Why would you tolerate that extra cost? He was like, look, hey, marketing people, you're going to learn how to frickin' spell and you're going to learn some grammar. And I expect you guys to do it. I'm not hiring more people for you guys. But checking grammar takes more time. No, we don't care. It's still your job. It's part of your output. And you're going to do the whole of your output. We're not going to allow you to output something with a bunch of faults in it and then require spinning up an entire other department to mitigate or manage those faults. So once you start thinking about it like that, yes, this is actually threatening to a lot of security functions because, well, if we stop people from making mistakes, we won't have jobs anymore. And I think if you're thinking like that, well, we have a bigger problem here. But generally, as a CISO, if you're truly a business-oriented CISO and you're being remunerated based on the outcomes and the results you drive and the cost efficiencies and how much you contribute to the business, well, that is your best way of operating. And if you operate with that mindset of, hey, it's my business, which I think is a really good argument for remunerating CISOs a bit more with equity, because then it is partly your business and it is no longer in your incentive to waste as much money as possible or to try and get as much money out of the business, because everyone wants more budget. No one necessarily thinks about, well, how can I contribute to the business enough to justify and more than offset this budget? So I think that mentality is really, really important. Like get yourself a business mentality. There's a great book called The Pocket MBA, and it's really, I'd say most of it's pretty simple, but I guess maybe I've been a bit more business minded than most people in security for a while. Are the vultures trying to eat me? What's going on? That's worth reading. I think it's important once you reach a C level to have that kind of entrepreneurship or business mindset where you are doing the best for the business and not just for security or your department. Especially at a C level, you should be willing to sacrifice your own department for the good of the business. Now, that doesn't mean, firing people willy-nilly, but if you have created a structure or if you inherit a structure that is far too big for what it needs to be if things are done properly, then you have to be willing to make those cuts and do what's best for the business. So I think that very simple mindset change of, this is my business. I want to treat this as my business. And why do I run a business? To make money. And you'd be surprised at how often approaching the thinking or whatever you're doing with that mindset or with that in mind really changes how we operate. And I think that says a lot about the kind of status quo today. So it's a very, very simple thing to keep in mind. And it'll keep you trying to generate savings, to generate efficiencies. And the other thing is, the other executives are going to notice this. Like, well, this techie he's not hounding us for more and more budget, more and more tech all the time. He's actually trying to streamline things, and he's asking us business questions and how departments interoperate and suggesting ways of efficiency and driving down costs and maybe even some commercial opportunities. And hey, he suggested we could leverage security like this as a value add or as something that we could use to, maybe win a tender, like a little bit of extra value over our competitor, or a perceived value that the competitor hasn't mentioned that we can maybe mention. Once you start operating more from that business mindset, it really, really changes things. So that very, very simple mindset change of, this is my business, what's best for it, really helpful. I mean, I hope it is for you guys.